All right, can everybody see my screen? Can anybody hear me? All right, so I'm assuming everybody can hear me and everybody can see my screen. Oh wait, there we go. Screen monitor. Okay. So let me just double check everything going on here. All right. So today I'm going to talk about OBS, and I'm going to basically kind of okay. So OBS is a screen capture software, and basically we can do videos with it. Its original purpose was to actually record video games on the PC. So it's gamer and abilities and stuff like that. Here. Oh, here we go. There's a whole questions pane. Okay, so the OBS has been like basically for videos for how long? People have been using it for games, people using it for streaming and things like that. So you go to obsproject.com. You can type in OBS, and it stands for Open Broadcaster Software. And you can download your version. So if you have Windows, Mac, or iOS, and basically install it after that. I'm going to note, though, that if you do go into the forums, they do have a decent Windows support, as well as they have a plugins page. And if you're going with Studio, which is the newer version, they've got a ton of different things, from turning like the iOS camera for OBS Studio, virtual cameras, so there's plugins that you can add in to it as well. This is all free. It's basically all it's pretty much all for free. The updates come out about once every 6 months or so. Overall, I've had good success with it. So I'm gonna close this, and so I've got OBS running here. And when you start OBS, all this stuff is empty here, and so setup is kind of a big portion of kind of getting OBS running. All right, and so in order to get it, you've got two different things. You've got scenes, which are kind of like holders, and then you've got your sources, which are like your screen capture, your webcam, and things like that. And so you can see here, I've got multiple monitors. So what I do is I can switch back and forth, show my main menu, I can show my Cintiq, and I can even create header sheets in there just by switching back and forth when I hit record. So that's kind of the overall kind of process of this. So we're going to set up a basic one here. So you click the add button and you tell it what it is. So I'm going to just do, I'll do test, and I'll show you guys here. So when you hit test, you have a container. So from there you can add in, and pretty much you can add in any number of things. So you can add in audio inputs. You can add in browser windows. You can do a display capture. You can do screen capture, window captures, text, images, and pretty much anything you really want to kind of achieve. So if I want to do an image, I can simply say create image, hit OK, and then it's going to pop up a window and ask me to find said image. So I'm just going to go to my desktop here, and I'm going to use this. I'll use this old house here, And when I hit OK, it'll pop that image in relationship to the number of pixels. So this image isn't very big. So of course this image is, you know, kind of small, but you can always move and scale accordingly. So we can, you know, shrink and build these things accordingly. So you can also flip it upside down. There we go. So I'm going to just move that up in this corner, and it'll automatically kind of snap into the location. I can then add other things. So if I want to add, let's add a display capture here, and I can add an existing capture, or I've got 3 monitors. So you'll, you know, if you don't have 3 monitors, you'll only see one option. All right. So if I hit display capture, I think 2 is what I want. It'll pop in that window. Now, if you don't want something, you can always right click on it and remove it, or you can double click on it and choose a different display. So if you're not sure what you want, so you can pop that in there as well. And again, you can scale this just like any image, you know, moving things accordingly. You can also add in webcams. So you want to add in, I believe it's, I don't use the webcam that much. Video capture device, I think that's it. Nope. If it's not, if you don't have something, it usually crashes when you're building it. Once you get the OBS running, it's really stable. Up until that point, though, all right, so we're just going to remove that. So you can add in, you know, browser windows, game captures, media sources, video capture devices, number of different things. So from there, that's mostly set up. You can actually start recording if you want, and kind of go from there. Okay. But you want to actually probably play with the settings to get something a little bit more video ready. I know that some of my instructors have been complaining about having, you know, the file size is way too big, and so in order to deal with that, there's some different things that we can do. So you can easily go into output here, and I've got this set to advanced. You can, when it's in simple, it'll actually kind of look a little bit kind of output to streaming and output to recording. Okay, so you want to choose your recording path, and I've set mine up for desktop. So every time I record a video, it pops right in my desktop. I do a medium-sized quality, high quality file, and I change my bit rate to, default is 2400. I change it to 1000, and I really don't notice any variation to that. But what it does is it lowers the file size. So when you're screen capturing, you know, because most of your screen is pretty much the same, you don't really have an issue with it. You'll notice it, like if you've got a webcam and you're moving around in the webcam, a lower video bit rate will get a little bit more chunkier. The motion blur won't quite be there. So that's something that you guys can kind of look at and kind of build up. For classroom purposes, I changed the recording format to MP4. You can do FLV, movies, and other file formats. I do not recommend FLV because the way it uploads to Brightspace is it turns into a, it doesn't scale the size. So basically, it puts it in a little window, and when they play it, they have to actually scroll back and forth to view all of the screen. So MP4 is the most successful version, or format here. And I always change my encoder to hardware. You have software, but I think it's less taxing on the system if you do hardware. And so that's pretty much it. Now, if you're in advanced, you can actually go into different tabs here. So we've got streaming. You can control your bit rate again. You can go to your recording and choose basically what audio tracks and all this information. You can go in and change the audio bit rate. So like if you want a smaller bit rate, you can add that in there too. So there's a lot of options. The streaming side of things, if you guys happen to stream or happen to want to hold a live classroom in, say, Twitch or Picardo or something like that, you can use the streaming version, and basically you have to get a key code from whoever you're streaming from, and then you import your key code, and then when you hit start streaming in the general tab here, you'll basically go live online. Audio, I set my sample rate down to 44 versus 48. I do stereo, and then basically I leave everything else default. Video wise, now this is where you can kind of play with things a little bit. So there is my screen here is 1920 by 1080, which is the standard, I think, 16:9 format. And you can actually change the kind of formatting. You can type in your own numbers, and it's based off of what you're looking at for screen. And then you can output a scaled resolution. So if you're a 1920 screen and you want to lower the resolution to create a smaller file size, you can do like 768, or change accordingly and get a little bit more information from. And I don't change the frames because that's generally 30. You can change them if you want. It's just going to scale the scenery a little bit. All right, so this is where I set up the majority of my stuff. So in start recording, I have got hotkeys set up. So I don't even actually interface with OBS that much anymore. I've gotten to the point where I've got my home key set up, and I literally hit the home key to start recording. I just need to remember what screen that I'm going to. So that's pretty much what I do. I mean, so I either share my main desktop here, or I share my Cintiq, and you can even set up hotkeys for, you can set up hotkeys for this, so you can switch and pop to different screens if you want, if that's a thing with you. You can also create mute keys, push to talk, a number of different things. There are some more advanced things, but you don't really need to kind of jump into that. And so that is kind of the ultimate process of this. Now, when I do screen recording, I basically essentially hit my start recording button, and I start basically working on my screen and talking. So that's how you set up OBS. That is kind of the process of setting up OBS. And the nice thing about it is, I'm going to actually go here. So the nice thing about it, and you'll see probably around here after I stopped recording, but if I hit start recording, it works with other things. So if you're doing a stream in the virtual classroom, if you're doing something else, Twitch, it doesn't matter, talking with a student on Skype and sharing your screen with Skype or whatever, Hangouts or whatever program you use, the scene, it'll record everything it does. And then you hit stop recording, and basically there is my file right there. So that file is 9 megabytes for 28 seconds, which isn't that bad. I have instructors using Handbrake and things like that, and they really don't, if they've got the settings right, they really don't use that much or gain that much by using Handbrake. So So that is essentially and ultimately the kind of process of setting up and kind of running your program. So as long as it's running in the background, I can just hit the home key and move accordingly from there. Now, once that is done, you know, I realize that everybody has their own kind of way they do things. You know, everybody's got their own concept, their own ideas, and their own process. And OBS is by no means perfect. You know, there's things in here that it doesn't offer. You know, but there's things that it does. So it's just one of those things that it boils into personal preference. And the reason I like it is it's more hands off. I've used like Camtasia. I didn't like the render times, so the issue was, you know, I'd hit record, and then after I'd recording, it would need to compile the information and then render it out, and then I'd have to set it up and render it again. So it was just time consuming. And I've tried some other screen recorders, but they just felt clunky. And so I had one of our instructors recommended this to me, and I just kind of fell in love with it. When I do recording and things like that, recording for me is not about carrying on a long conversation. Recording for me is to give them the basic information and move on. Because the longer I talk, the more I have to upload. And so uploading, you know, a 30-minute video that the student may or may not watch, you know, to me is overextensive. So I keep things short, simple. You know, you can share the webcam, you can share, you know, different types of things. There are some other softwares that you can use. I think one's called XP Pen. And what that does is allows you to draw over the screen. So if you're not using, you know, if you're using a Word document to demonstrate your information, you can draw on top of that while you're recording it. So you can actually bring attention. So in conjunction with other softwares, this works really well. I pretty much use this pretty much nonstop. And so when we're in a classroom, let me just open my current class here. When we're in a classroom, if I can find that, what I do is I will download their file first. So I'll actually click download on that, and I'll open it up and move it off to the side. And I'll grab what I need and I'll record from it. And then before I get to the next person here, which I'm actually on the last page, but I'll download that one and then start uploading the prior assignment. That way I can record while I'm uploading, and it's more or less a little bit more less time consuming, and I can actually get through the majority of my, like if I've got 20 students and say 10 of them posted, I can probably get through all 10 of those within 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Everyone gets like a 5-minute video. So that is the overlying process.